very, very fascinating thing, because obviously you care a lot about the people that you're speaking to. It feels like I'm sitting down at a table with you and your friends as you're having a conversation over a meal. And so I'm curious how you kind of came about with this idea, and what kind of even editing you're doing. Are you kind of sitting there and saying, okay, we have to keep it at this length? Or are you just like saying, we're going to sit down for however long it is and we're going to just talk and it's going to be what people are going to hear?
Well, originally this was an idea that Sean Hayes of Will and Grace came to Eric McCormack of Will and Grace about, because Sean's company, Hazy Mills, does Smartless and a bunch of podcasts. And he approached Eric with an idea. What? Do you have any ideas? And Eric, to his credit, thankfully, suggested that why don't he and his good buddy Steven Weber do something, because we go out to dinner a lot. We have a bunch of actor buddies, and we have these meandering, funny, entertaining conversations over food. So we thought that the food component would be a good hook. Because it's not a standard interview show. It's a conversational, rambling kind of a show, and that's interspersed with chewing and tooth sucking, like that. And we found that the atmosphere of a restaurant or a meal is something that's very conducive to loose, relaxed talk. Nobody's hawking or a product. Nobody's trying to publicize something. It's just friends getting together and gabbing. And of course, Eating Out with Eric and Steve can be found on apple.co/eating out, wherever podcasts are, I guess, downloaded or uploaded or stolen, or I have no idea how people find them. But it's been turning out to be a great time. There's no pressure. And I'm glad that you said that it feels like you're having a meal with us, because that's basically all we want. We want people to eat with us desperately.
But so as you're doing these conversations, are you there kind of before you go in, are you sitting like, oh, I want to make sure we talk about X, Y, or Z? Or are you truly going in figuratively, brain blank, and saying what comes up will come up?
Well, generally, we start off with the easiest prompts. What are you eating? And how'd that come about? And then it leads invariably into showbiz stories or theater stories. And then it goes to a different level. It finds its own path. So we don't have, again, points that we necessarily want to hit. They mostly come up organically. But look, there are things that Eric and I find interesting as friends that we're always asking each other and asking our other buddies, having to do with that acting world. But like I say, there's no agenda. Nobody's trying to sell anything. And what we're really looking for is that kind of loose conversation. As for editing, we basically try to edit the air out of things, because people tend to, when they're eating, relax, sometimes a little too much. They open up their pants, and like I said, they suck their teeth, or and it gets so relaxed that it becomes something else. It becomes some sort of Samuel Beckett piece where people are just kind of not saying anything and just chewing and making sounds of contentment. So we've had to kind of edit those out, or else people will fall asleep.
Yeah. Well, I know you've already recorded your first season of the show. So looking ahead to a possible second season, what can you say about any dream guests? And do you have any former co-stars that you're hoping to bring on, whether it's or current co-stars in terms of the Chicago Med world?
Right. Well, I mean, there's no season per se we're discovering in podcast world, because one of the hurdles has been trying to get everybody in the same place, virtually or otherwise, given everybody's weird schedules, whether they're working or whether they're just being human beings with their family. It's hard to get everybody at one single place at one time. I mean, we've had a bunch of guests, everybody from Bryan Cranston to LeVar Burton to Richard Kind to Joe Bowen to Tony Shalhoub to Perry Gilpin, and on and on. And eventually, I'm going to start picking the actors from my backyard. If it's Epatha Murkison or Oliver Platt or any of the other lunatics on Chicago Med would be fantastic. And But the fact is that both Eric and I have been doing this for so long. I mean, I'm going into my 40th year of being a professional working actor, and so there's a lot of people to choose from or to ask, and an equal amount of people who would love to just sit down and just chat with us. Oddly enough, there's a lot of isolation in the acting world, especially in LA. You know, there's that community is missing, the type of community that we've always loved and longed for. In New York, when you're a young struggling actor, you see your friend coming up the street, and you stop into a saloon for a drink or something like that, or a meal after a play or after a show. That's what we're trying to capture. So there's plenty of actors who are hungry for contact and just hungry in general. So I think we'll have no shortage of guests.